Admiral Kang Tae-ho sat in the cold metal chair and watched the alien creatures around the table. The meeting room on Nexus Prime Station felt huge, with its high ceiling and bright lights that hurt his eyes. 12 different species filled the chairs, and most of them looked at him like he was something dirty they had stepped on. The Sectar diplomat, Counselor Vexthara, stood up from his chair. His green scales caught the light as he moved his long neck to look down at Kang Tae-ho. The reptile alien had ruled this council for many years, and he did not like having humans here. So, Vexthara said in his deep voice, the mammals from Earth want to join our civilized galaxy. He made a sound that might have been laughing, but it sounded more like a snake hissing. Tell me, human, how many star systems does your species control? Kang Tae-ho kept his face calm. We have colonies in 47 star systems, Counselor. The room filled with more hissing sounds from different aliens. A big creature covered in gray fur slammed his fist on the table. This was General Thokmar of the Gorvak, a species that loved war and fighting. 47 systems. Thokmar roared. My people control 300 systems. The Sectar have ruled over 2,000 systems for longer than your species has had fire. Ambassador Yoon Da-un, who sat next to Kang Tae-ho, spoke quietly. Counselor Vexthara, we come here seeking peaceful relations, not to boast about territory. Vexthara turned his cold yellow eyes to her. Peace? How can there be peace when primitive species spread through the galaxy like a disease? You humans discovered faster than light travel only 50 years ago. We have had it for over 3,000 years. A thin blue alien with 4 arms raised one hand. This was the Zephyrian representative, known for being smart and logical. The question is not how long humans have had this technology, but whether they can use it safely. Their ships are crude. Their weapons are simple. They barely understand the basic laws of space travel. Kang Tae-ho had heard these words before. Every species in the galaxy seemed to think humans were stupid children who had gotten lucky. They thought human technology was rough and simple compared to their advanced machines. Perhaps, said another alien, this one looking like a walking crystal. We should treat the humans as a protected species. They can have their home system and maybe 2 or 3 nearby stars. We will watch over them and make sure they do not hurt themselves or others. The idea seemed to make the other aliens happy. They began talking among themselves about how to keep humans safe from their own stupidity. Kang Tae-ho listened to them plan his species' future like they were discussing pets. General Thokmar laughed, showing his sharp teeth. Protected species. Yes, this is good. My war fleets could destroy every human ship with one attack. Better to keep them safe in their little corner of space. Yoon Da-un leaned forward. Honored counselors, perhaps you would like to see what human engineering can achieve before making such decisions? Vexthara's head tilted to one side. You wish to show us your primitive ships? This could be educational. Yes, bring your finest vessel here. Let the council see what humans call advanced technology. Kang Tae-ho stood up slowly. Thank you, Counselor. I will send a message to our fleet. Our newest ship can be here in 3 days. Your newest ship? The crystal alien seemed amused. How large is this vessel? As big as a Gorvak fighter? Perhaps the size of a Zephyrian scout craft? It is big enough, Kang Tae-ho said simply. The aliens around the table began making bets with each other about what the human ship would look like. The Gorvak general bet it would be smaller than his personal shuttle. The Zephyrian thought it might be the size of a cargo ship. The Sectar counselor guessed it would have weapons that could barely scratch the paint on a real warship. Kang Tae-ho and Yoon Da-un walked out of the meeting room together. The long hallway was empty and their footsteps echoed off the walls. They think we are children, Yoon Da-un said softly. Let them think that, Kang Tae-ho replied. In 3 days they will understand their mistake. Back in the meeting room, the aliens continued their discussion about the human problem. They talked about humans like they were talking about animals that had learned a few tricks. The mammals are too aggressive, said one alien. They fight wars on their own planet. They pollute their environment, said another. Clearly they cannot be trusted with advanced technology. Their biology is weak, added the Gorvak general. They die after only 100 years. How can such short-lived creatures understand the deep wisdom needed for galactic civilization? Counselor Vexthara listened to all of this and nodded his scaled head. In his long life, he had seen many species try to join the galactic community. Most failed. A few succeeded, but only after proving they deserved a place at the table. The humans would fail. just like the others. When their ship arrives, Bexathera announced, "We will examine it carefully. We will see their weapons, their engines, their computers. Then we will know exactly how primitive they really are." The other counselors agreed. They would be kind but firm with the humans, a small territory, some trade rights, protection from the more dangerous species in the galaxy. It was more than most new species got. None of them could imagine that in 3 days, everything they thought they knew about power and technology would change forever. The meeting ended, and the aliens went back to their quarters on the station. They sent messages to their homeworlds about the amusing human delegation. They wrote reports about the primitive mammals who thought they belonged in civilized space. Tomorrow they would prepare their instruments to scan the human ship. They would gather their scientists and military experts. They wanted to study human technology so they could understand exactly how far behind the mammals really were. 3 days seemed like a very long time to wait for such entertainment. Nam Gi-jun stared at his sensor screen and blinked several times. The numbers could not be right. Something was wrong with his equipment. He was half human and half Zephyrian, which made him perfect for working with the station's sensor systems. His human side gave him good instincts, while his Zephyrian side gave him the math skills needed for the job. But right now, both sides of his brain were telling him that his sensors had gone crazy. "Chief Nulvek," he called to his supervisor. The crystal alien moved over to Nam Gi-jun's station, his body making soft ringing sounds as he walked. "What is the problem, Nam Gi-jun?" "The gravity sensors are going wild. Something big is coming out of hyperspace, but the readings are impossible." Chief Nulvek looked at the screen with his glowing blue eyes. Each number that appeared made him more confused. "This cannot be correct. Run a full diagnostic on all systems." Nam Gi-jun's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "I already did." 3 times. "The sensors are working perfectly." Dr. Lee So-young, a human scientist who worked on the station, heard the noise and came over to see what was happening. She looked at the numbers and felt her heart start beating faster. "How far away is it?" she asked. "About 10 million kilometers and closing fast," Nam Gi-jun replied. "But Chief, look at the mass readings. This thing is bigger than anything I have ever seen." The station's alarm system suddenly came to life. Red lights flashed in every hallway and a voice spoke over the communication system. "All personnel prepare for incoming hyperspace event. Large mass detected. All personnel prepare for incoming hyperspace event." In the council meeting room, the alien representatives looked at each other with worry. Counselor Vexthera spoke into his communicator. "Control room, what is happening?" Nam Gi-jun's voice came back, shaking with excitement and fear. "Counselor, something is coming out of hyperspace. The mass readings are off the charts. Is it the human ship?" "Sir, if this is the human ship, then we need to rethink everything we know about human technology." Space around Nexus Prime began to change. The stars seemed to bend and twist as reality itself got ready for something huge to appear. Every ship near the station moved away quickly, their captains not wanting to be close to whatever was coming. The hyperspace portal opened like a wound in space. Energy poured out in colors that had no names. The portal grew bigger and bigger until it was large enough for a small moon to pass through. Then the UES Indomitable came through. The ship was so big that it blocked out entire star fields as it moved. 15 kilometers long, 5 kilometers wide, covered in armor that seemed to eat light itself. Strange energy patterns moved across its hull like living things. Weapons that no one could identify pointed in every direction. Captain Park Min-soo sat on the bridge of his ship and looked at the small station ahead of them. From his point of view, Nexus Prime looked like a toy floating in space. "Communications. Open a channel to the station," he ordered. "Channel open." "Captain." Park Min-soo's voice was calm and friendly as he spoke to the station. "Nexus Prime. This is the UES Indomitable requesting permission to dock. We will need berth 17. It is the only one big enough for our smallest shuttle bay." The silence that followed his message lasted for almost a minute. Nam Gi-jun stared at his sensor readings and felt his mind trying to reject what he was seeing. The ship's power output was higher than some stars. Its weapons could crack planets in half. Its shields were so strong that they bent space around the ship. And the captain had just said this was only their smallest shuttle bay. Chief Nulvek made a sound like breaking glass. Nam Gi-jun scanned the ship again. "There must be an error." "I have scanned it 12 times, Chief. The readings are correct." Nam Gi-jun's voice was barely a whisper. This ship has more firepower than our entire defense fleet. Dr. Lee So-young felt proud and terrified at the same time. She had known that Earth was working on new technology, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. In the council room, every alien representative sat in complete silence. General Thokmar, who had boasted about destroying human ships, looked like he might faint. The Zephyrian diplomat, who had called human technology primitive, was checking his translator. Sure that he had misunderstood something, Counselor Vexthera tried to speak several times before any words came out. Captain Park Minsu, welcome to Nexus Prime. Berth 17 is available for your use. Thank you, Counselor. We will dock in 1 hour. Please have your science teams ready if they wish to examine our ship. The communication ended, leaving the station in shocked silence. Dr. Lee So-young hurried to the communication room and sent an urgent message to Earth. She needed to know how many ships like the Indomitable existed. The answer she got back made her sit down heavily in her chair. Earth had over 2,000 ships this size or larger. The next hour passed like a dream. Every scientist on the station gathered to watch the Indomitable dock. The ship moved slowly and carefully, its massive bulk making the station shake slightly as it settled into place. Small human shuttles began flying between the ship and the station. Each shuttle was bigger than most alien fighters, and they moved with a grace that spoke of advanced technology. Captain Park Minsu walked through the station's airlock accompanied by several of his officers. He was a normal-looking human man. Nothing special about him except for his calm confidence. Behind him came men and women in dark blue uniforms, all of them looking like this was just another day at work. The alien representatives waited in the main docking bay to meet them. None of them knew what to say. Counselor Vexthera, Captain Park said with a smile. Thank you for allowing us to dock. I hope our ship meets with your approval. Vexthera's voice came out as a croak. Captain, your ship is larger than we expected. The Indomitable is actually one of our medium-sized vessels, Park replied casually. We brought her because she has good diplomatic facilities. Would you like a tour? General Thokmar stepped forward, his warrior pride making him ask the question that everyone was thinking. Captain, how many ships like this does Earth have? Park Minsu thought for a moment. Ships this size? About 800, I think. Our larger vessels number in the hundreds and our smaller ships, he shrugged. Too many to count easily. The aliens looked at each other with growing horror. Their entire understanding of human capabilities had been wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. Perhaps, said the crystal alien in a voice like wind chimes, we should discuss new terms for Earth's membership in the galactic community. Captain Park smiled. I think that would be wise, Counselor. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo stepped off the shuttle and looked around the station's science deck. The alien scientists waited for him like students meeting a famous teacher. They had no idea that their universe was about to change. Professor Velkara, the greatest physicist in the galaxy, moved forward on her 6 thin legs. The Zephyrian had spent 300 years studying the deepest secrets of reality. She thought she understood everything about how the universe worked. Dr. Choi, she said in her musical voice, we are very interested in seeing your ship's technology. Perhaps you could explain how your engines work? Choi Hyun-woo smiled and pushed his glasses up his nose. He looked like any normal human engineer, with oil stains on his uniform and messy hair. Of course, Professor. But first, let me ask you something. What do you think time is? Professor Velkara tilted her head. Time is the 4th dimension. It moves forward at a constant rate. This is basic physics. That is what we used to think too, Choi said. Then we learned that time is more like a river. You can step out of it if you know how. He pulled out a small device that looked like a metal box with lights on it. This is a temporal field generator. Watch carefully. Choi pressed a button on the device. Suddenly, he seemed to move slightly out of focus. The lights around him became dim and his voice sounded strange. Right now, he said, I am existing 1 second ahead of the rest of you. Time is passing normally for me, but you are all moving very slowly from my point of view. Professor Velkara's 4 eyes went wide. That is impossible. You cannot just step out of time. We do not step out of time, Choi explained as he turned off the device and returned to normal. We create a small bubble where time moves differently. Our ship's hull exists in millions of these bubbles. When enemy weapons hit us, they are hitting armor that is slightly ahead or behind in time. Most attacks just passed through without doing any damage. Commander Kim Jae-min, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Dr. Choi, perhaps you should show them the manufacturing bay. The group of alien scientists followed the humans through the station's corridors to a large room where human engineers were working. In the center of the room sat a machine that looked like a metal table covered in blue lights. This is a quantum forge, Choi explained. It can rearrange matter at the level of individual atoms. Watch. He placed a piece of metal on the table and typed commands into a computer. The blue lights grew brighter, and the metal began to change. In just a few minutes, it had become a perfect crystal sculpture of a flower. We can make anything we need, Choi said simply. Food, weapons, tools, even computer parts. As long as we have raw materials, we can create whatever we want. Dr. Shin Yoonji, a young human physicist, walked over to join them. Dr. Choi, should we show them the psionic amplifiers? What are psionic amplifiers? Asked the crystal alien scientist. Dr. Shin pointed to a headband that one of the human officers was wearing. Human brains are very good at recognizing patterns and making quick decisions. The amplifiers make these abilities much stronger. When our officers wear them, they can predict what enemies will do before the enemies know it themselves. Professor Velkara was starting to shake. These technologies, they break every law of physics that we know. No, said Choi gently. They just use laws that you have not discovered yet. Would you like to see the mathematical formulas? He handed her a data pad filled with equations. Professor Velkara looked at the first page and felt her mind go blank. The mathematics was so complex that she could not even understand what the symbols meant. This is impossible, she whispered. These equations require at least 11 dimensions to work. We have only proven that 4 dimensions exist. We have found evidence for 26 dimensions so far, Dr. Shin said, though we can only manipulate the first 14 with current technology. The alien scientists looked at each other with growing panic. They had thought they were the smart ones in the galaxy. Now they felt like children trying to understand how stars worked. Chief Nulvek, the crystal alien who ran the station's engineering, pointed at the quantum forge. How do you power such devices? They would need more energy than a fusion reactor can provide. Commander Kim smiled. Would you like to see our power source? He led them to a window that looked out at the Indomitable. The massive ship hung in space like a sleeping giant. Do you see those blue glows along the hull? Those are our fusion reactors. We have 1,200 of them. 1,200 fusion reactors? Chief Nulvek's voice rose so high it sounded like a bell ringing. That is more power than our entire star system uses. Actually, said Dr. Choi, those are our backup power systems. Our main reactor uses controlled black holes. It produces about as much energy as a small star. Professor Velkara sat down heavily in a nearby chair. Her legs could not hold her up anymore. How is any of this possible? How did your species advance so quickly? Dr. Shin Yoonji looked embarrassed. Well, most of this technology came from human children. Children? Yes. On Earth, we have competitions where children try to solve scientific problems. Last year, a 12-year-old girl figured out how to make stable micro-black holes. A 10-year-old boy invented the temporal shielding system for his science fair project. The alien scientists made sounds of distress. A Gorvac engineer fell to his knees. You mean that children on your planet understand science better than our greatest minds? Not better, Choi said kindly. Just differently. Human brains work in ways that make us very good at seeing patterns and making connections. We learn by playing and experimenting. Your species learn by studying and following rules. Both ways are good, but they lead to different kinds of knowledge. Commander Kim looked at his watch. Dr. Choi, we should show them the dimensional anchor. What is a dimensional anchor? Asked Professor Velkara weakly. It is our main weapon system, Kim explained. Instead of shooting energy or missiles at targets, we anchor parts of space-time to other parts. This creates tears in reality. He showed them a video recording of a test firing. A target asteroid simply vanished, leaving behind empty space that sparkled with strange colors. Where did the asteroid go? Asked Chief Nulvek. Nowhere, said Kim. It stopped existing. The dimensional anchor convinced the universe that there had never been an asteroid there in the first place. Professor Velkara stood up suddenly and walked away without saying a word. The other alien scientists watched her go, understanding how she felt. Everything they had believed about science and technology was wrong. Dr. Choi looked sad. I hope we have not upset her too much. These concepts can be difficult to accept. Doctor, said the crystal alien scientist, how long did it take your species to develop this technology? Most of it came together in the last 20 years, Choi replied. Though the basic theories were worked out about 50 years ago, around the time we discovered faster-than-light travel. The aliens realized with horror that humans had advanced more in 50 years than most species did in thousands of years. They were not just behind human technology. They were so far behind that they could not even see where humans were going. Commander Kim's communicator buzzed. He listened to the message and smiled. Dr. Choi, Admiral Yu's fleet just arrived in the Epsilon sector. They are ready to begin the war games. War games? Asked Chief Nulvek. Oh yes, said Kim casually. We have a few hundred ships conducting training exercises nearby. Nothing major. The alien scientists felt their hearts sink even further. If the Indomitable was just one ship and there were hundreds more nearby, they were beginning to understand that the galaxy had just changed forever. Captain Park Minsu was showing Counselor Vexithera around the bridge of the Indomitable when his communicator made a soft beeping sound. He picked it up with a casual smile, not knowing that the next few minutes would change galactic history forever. Captain Park, this is Admiral Yu Sung-ho. The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet has arrived at Epsilon Sector as scheduled. We are ready to begin war games. Do you need us to adjust our position? Park looked at the worried faces of the alien representatives around him. No, Admiral. Proceed with the exercises as planned. We have guests here who might be interested in observing. Understood, Captain. Beginning maneuvers now. Park put down his communicator and turned to the aliens. Counselor Vexithera, would you like to watch our fleet exercises? We can observe from here. Vexithera's scaled hands were shaking. Captain, how many ships are participating in these exercises? Oh, not too many. Just the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. Maybe 5,000 ships total. The bridge fell completely silent. General Thokmar, who had come aboard with the diplomatic party, made a choking sound. 5,000 ships? He whispered. Well, that includes support vessels and supply ships, Park said helpfully. Combat ships are only about 3,000. Commander Kim Jae-min walked over to the main screen. Shall I show them, Captain? Please do. The screen lit up with a view of space near Epsilon Sector. At first it looked empty except for a few stars. Then Kim adjusted the sensors and space filled with lights. Ships appeared everywhere. Massive vessels that dwarfed even the Indomitable moved in perfect formations. Smaller ships darted between them like schools of fish. The entire display looked like a city made of metal floating in space. Ambassador Oh Soo-jin, who had been quiet during the tour, stepped forward. Counselors, perhaps this is a good time to mention that the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet represents about 12% of our active navy. Several aliens fell down. Others made sounds that had no translation in any language. Counselor Vexithera gripped the rail in front of him so hard that his claws left marks in the metal. 12%? He managed to say. Yes, said Oh Soo-jin with a sweet smile. We have 8 full fleets on active duty, plus reserve forces and home defense squadrons. Earth takes security very seriously. General Thokmar looked at the screen showing thousands of human warships and thought about his proud boasts from 3 days ago. He had said that his people could destroy any human vessel with a single attack. Now he was looking at a fleet that could conquer his entire civilization without breaking a sweat. Captain Park, said the crystal alien representative, may I ask about your weapons? Surely ships this size carry devastating firepower. Each Titan-class vessel carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet, Park replied matter-of-factly. Though we prefer not to do that, of course. Bad for the environment. Admiral General Hanbora's voice came through the communicator. Captain Park, the Marine Corps training exercise is also ready to begin. Should we proceed? Marines? Asked Vexithera weakly. Oh yes, said Park. We brought a few Marine battalions for ground combat training. Nothing major. Just 50,000 troops. The number hit the aliens like a physical blow. 50,000 human soldiers equipped with technology that made their weapons look like stone tools. Captain John In-ho's voice joined the conversation from his own ship. Admiral Yu, the destroyer squadrons are in position. All 17 wings ready for mock combat. 17 wings of destroyers. Counselor Vexithera felt like he was drowning. Each wing has about 300 ships, Commander Kim explained helpfully. Our destroyers are designed for fast attacks and reconnaissance. Oh Soo-jin pulled out a datapad and began reading from it. Since we are sharing information, perhaps I should mention that human intelligence services have been monitoring galactic communications for the past 60 years. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Every alien representative felt ice in their veins. "You have been spying on us?" asked the Zephyrian diplomat. "Spying is such an ugly word," Osujin said. "We prefer to call it gathering information for peaceful purposes. We know about every military base, every fleet movement, every political decision made by every major species in the galaxy." She tapped her datapad. "For example, Counselor Vexus Thara, we know about your secret weapons research on Kepler 438b. General Thokmar, we have complete blueprints of your new dreadnought design. Professor Velkara, we have been reading her private research notes for the past 20 years. The aliens looked at each other with growing horror. If humans had been watching them for 60 years without being detected, then human technology was even more advanced than they had thought possible. "How?" whispered Chief Nolvek. "How did you monitor us without our sensors detecting anything?" Captain Park shrugged. "We use dimensional scanning. Our sensors exist in parallel universes where your detection equipment cannot see them. We can observe anything happening in normal space without leaving any trace of our presence." The implications hit the aliens like a tsunami. Humans had not just recently developed superior technology. They had been superior for decades and had been watching the galaxy like adults watching children play. Admiral Yu's voice came through the communicator again. "All ships begin exercise Thunderstrike. Demonstrate maximum firepower on designated asteroids." The main screen switched to show the test targets. 12 large asteroids floated in space, each one the size of a small moon. The human fleet opened fire. What happened next could not be described in any language. Space itself seemed to tear apart as the human weapons fired. The asteroids did not explode. They simply ceased to exist, leaving behind patches of twisted spacetime that sparkled with impossible colors. "Dimensional anchors," Park explained casually. "We convinced the universe that those asteroids were never there in the first place." General Thokmar fell to his knees. In his warrior culture, surrender to a superior force was honorable. "I formally surrender my people to human authority," he said in a broken voice. The other aliens began talking frantically into their communicators, sending emergency messages to their homeworlds. The news they sent would cause panic on 1,000 planets. The Sector Council called an emergency session and voted to offer humans immediate membership with full privileges. The Gorvak military leaders began ritualistic ceremonies of submission. The crystalline Veltar started religious movements worshipping human. Engineering smaller species throughout the galaxy began. Desperate negotiations for protection treaties with Earth. Trade routes changed, overnight to include mandatory stops at human space stations. Every major political decision now required human approval. Ambassador Osujin watched the chaos with satisfaction. "Captain Park, I think our demonstration has been effective. Perhaps we should return to the station," Park suggested. "I believe the Galactic Council has some new proposals to discuss." As they prepared to leave the bridge, Osujin made one final announcement. "Oh, and counselors? The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet is our oldest active fleet. Our newer ships are much more advanced." The aliens did not respond. They were too busy trying to process the idea that what they had just seen was actually outdated human technology. Within hours, emergency sessions were being called on every major world in the galaxy. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The galaxy would never be the same again. 6 months had passed since the arrival of the Indomitable, and the galaxy looked completely different. President Kim Young-suk stood at the window of her office on Earth, looking out at the stars and thinking about the enormous responsibility that had fallen on humanity's shoulders. Every trade route in known space now included stops at human stations. Every military decision required approval from human commanders. Every scientific discovery was shared with human researchers first. The species that had once looked down on humans now came to Earth like children seeking guidance from their parents. Fleet Admiral Lim Chan-ho walked into the office carrying a stack of reports. His face looked tired. Managing the most powerful military force in galactic history was not an easy job. "Madam President," he said, setting the reports on her desk, "the Sector have requested permission to move their 3rd Fleet to the Vega sector. The Gorvak are asking for human advisors to help redesign their weapons. The Zephyrians want to establish a joint research facility on Proxima Centauri. Kim Young-suk sighed and sat down at her desk. And what do our people think about all this attention? That is the problem, Lim replied. We are divided. The cabinet meeting this afternoon will be interesting. 3 hours later, the most important people in human government gathered in the council chamber. The debate that followed would determine the future of every living being in the galaxy. Dr. Park Hye-jin spoke first. She was the head of human xenological studies and leader of the faction that wanted to share technology freely. We have a moral obligation to help other species advance, she said firmly. We cannot keep these technologies to ourselves while billions of sentient beings suffer from disease, poverty, and ignorance. Fleet Admiral Lim shook his head. Dr. Park, you are being naive. If we give advanced technology to species that are not ready for it, we could cause disasters that would destroy entire civilizations. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share. Ambassador Kang Tae-ho, who had been promoted to Galactic Liaison after the Nexus Prime incident, raised his hand. Both of you make good points, but you are missing the bigger picture. The question is not whether we should help other species. The question is how much responsibility we are willing to accept. President Kim looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Each person represented millions of human voices, and those voices were saying different things. Tell me your proposals, she said quietly. Dr. Park stood up and activated a holographic display. I call this the Liberation Protocol. We share our technology freely with any species that wants it. We provide education, medical care, and industrial assistance. Within 50 years, every species in the galaxy could be at our level of advancement. And if they use that technology to destroy themselves? Asked Admiral Lim. Then that is their choice to make, Park replied. We cannot protect other species from their own decisions. Admiral Lim activated his own display. I propose the Isolation Protocol. We withdraw from galactic affairs except for essential trade and communication. We maintain a military presence to prevent wars, but we do not interfere with natural development. Let other species advance at their own pace. That would be abandoning billions of beings who could benefit from our help, Dr. Park protested. Ambassador Kang stepped forward. I have a third option. I call it the Prometheus Protocol, named after the ancient human myth of bringing fire to mortals. His holographic display showed a complex plan with many different levels. We share technology gradually, based on each species' ability to handle it safely. We provide defensive systems to prevent wars. We establish educational exchanges to help other species understand advanced concepts. We guide without controlling. President Kim studied the three proposals carefully. Outside her window, she could see alien ships arriving at Earth's orbital stations every hour. Representatives from hundreds of species came seeking human wisdom, human technology, human protection. Dr. Lee So-young, who had been on Nexus Prime during the first contact, spoke from her chair. Madam President, I have lived among other species for years. They are not children, despite what some humans think. They are capable of growth and wisdom, but they need help to reach their potential. And if we make the wrong choice? Asked President Kim. Then we live with the consequences, Admiral Lim said grimly. But at least we will have chosen our path deliberately, not stumbled into it by accident. The debate continued for hours. Scientists argued with military leaders. Diplomats fought with philosophers. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance while humans tried to decide what kind of galactic citizens they wanted to be. Finally, President Kim called for silence. I have heard all your arguments, she said. Now I will make the decision that our species will have to live with for centuries to come. She stood up and walked to the window again, looking out at the stars that humans now protected. We will implement the Prometheus Protocol with modifications. The room held its breath. We will share defensive technologies immediately to prevent wars between species. We will establish educational exchange programs on a voluntary basis. We will provide medical assistance to any species that requests it. We will maintain a military presence to ensure peace, but we will not conquer or control. Dr. Park started to object, but President Kim held up her hand. However, she continued, we will also respect each species' right to develop at their own pace. No forced advancement. No mandatory technology transfers. and absolutely no interference in internal politics unless a species specifically requests our help. Ambassador Kang smiled. The Prometheus Protocol with a human touch. Guidance with respect for independence. Exactly, said President Kim. We will be mentors, not masters. The decision was announced to the galaxy the next day. President Kim's speech was broadcast to every inhabited world, translated into thousands of languages, and heard by trillions of beings. People of the galaxy, she began, humanity accepts the responsibility that our advanced technology has placed upon us. But we do not accept the right to rule over other species. We offer our hand in friendship to any who wish to take it. We offer our protection to any who need it. We offer our knowledge to any who are ready to receive it. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within days, the first interspecies research stations were being planned. Alien students applied to study at human universities. Human doctors volunteered to work on alien worlds. 1 year later, Ambassador Kang Tae-ho stood on the observation deck of New Nexus Station, a massive facility built jointly by humans and 12 other species. Through the transparent walls, he could see human children playing with young aliens, their laughter echoing through the corridors. The first non-human species had successfully developed Titan-class technology with human assistance. The Zephyrians, with their natural intelligence and human guidance, had created ships that rivaled Earth's finest vessels. Dr. Park Hyejin approached him, carrying a datapad filled with progress reports. Kang, look at these numbers. Disease rates down 90% across 40 species. Industrial accidents down 80%. Armed conflicts down to nearly zero. And the cost? Kang asked, surprisingly low. It turns out that helping other species helps us too. The Gorvak military engineering combined with human dimensional science has produced engines twice as efficient as anything we had before. Sectar agricultural techniques have solved our food distribution problems. The crystal beings have taught us new forms of mathematics. Kang nodded, watching a human teacher explain quantum physics to a class of alien students. So we chose correctly. We chose the hardest path, Park replied, but also the best one. That evening, as Kang prepared his monthly report to Earth, he reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy that had once been dominated by fear and competition was now united in purpose. Species that had fought for thousands of years now worked together on projects that would benefit everyone. The human Titan-class ships still patrolled the galaxy, but now they carried mixed crews of humans and aliens working side by side. The dimensional weapons that had terrified the galaxy were used only for asteroid mining and space construction. Most importantly, the galaxy was growing. Every month brought new discoveries as different species shared their unique perspectives on science and technology. Humans had given the galaxy advanced tools, but the galaxy had given humanity something even more valuable, the knowledge that intelligence and wisdom could triumph over fear and hatred. As Kang finished his report and prepared for sleep, he smiled at the thought that future historians would mark this era as the time when the galaxy truly became civilized, not because one species had conquered all the others, but because one species had chosen to lift all the others up. The galaxy had recovered from its first glimpse of the human Titan-class ship, but it had recovered stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. And that, Kang thought, was the best possible outcome for everyone.